The desert night was silent, only the whisper of the wind moving across the endless dunes. A single human sat beside a small fire, his tent glowing faintly behind him. He was far from Earth, far from any place that could be called safe. His mission had been to map the wastelands of this alien world, but now he was simply surviving. The stars above him were brighter than he had ever seen, and the full moon painted the sand in silver light. The man rubbed his tired eyes. He had been walking for days, searching for resources, marking his map, and keeping watch for dangers. The planet was harsh, with beasts that hunted in the dark, and storms that could swallow whole camps. He thought he was alone in this endless desert, but he was wrong. From the shadows between the dunes came a faint sound, soft and trembling. At first, he thought it was the wind again, but then he heard it more clearly, a voice, weak and full of fear. He turned sharply, hand on the weapon at his side. His heart raced. Every instinct told him to prepare for danger. Out of the darkness, a small figure appeared. She was no taller than a child, her skin glowing faintly blue under the moonlight. Her eyes were large, shining with a strange light that was not human. Long dark hair flowed around her face, and her small body looked fragile, like a delicate glass figure that might break at any moment. The human froze. His mind tried to understand what he was seeing. She looked like an alien, but not like the fierce hunters he had fought before. She was small, beautiful in a strange way, and trembling as she stepped closer to the fire. Her bare feet sank into the sand, leaving tiny glowing prints behind her. Without a word, she collapsed at his feet. Her small hands reached out, clutching at his boots. He stepped back, shocked. But then she lifted her face, her voice no more than a whisper. "Please, make me whole," she said. The words struck him like lightning. He had expected her to beg for food, for water, or for protection from some beast. But instead, she asked for something he could not understand. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear and hope all at once. She curled into his lap without waiting for his answer, pressing her small frame against him as if she had known him all her life. The human's heart pounded. He had never held an alien before, never even thought such a moment could happen. Her skin was cool, her body trembling. She seemed broken, not just in body but in spirit, and her voice carried a sorrow far deeper than her years. He wanted to push her away, to demand answers, but something in her eyes held him still. She was not a threat. She was not an enemy. She was something else, something lost. He glanced around the desert, wondering if this was a trick. Maybe others were hiding in the shadows, waiting to attack, but the dunes were silent. The night, calm, only the girl remained, breathing softly in his lap. He whispered, "What do you mean? Whole from what?" She only shook her head, her voice trembling again. "Broken. I am broken." The human swallowed hard. The fire crackled between them, sending sparks into the night sky. He felt torn between reason and instinct. Reason told him to leave her, to survive on his own, but instinct told him to protect her, to keep her close. Something about her presence pulled at his very soul. The girl closed her eyes, as if she had finally found a place to rest. Her small form glowed faintly against the warmth of the fire. For the first time since he had landed on this barren planet, the human felt something strange. It was not fear, not loneliness. It was responsibility. He knew nothing about her. He did not know her people, her past, or her pain. But in that moment, under the silver light of the moon, he knew this. She had chosen him. She had trusted him with her broken self. And now, whether he wanted it or not, his journey was no longer his alone. The desert stretched endlessly around them, but it no longer felt empty. It felt like the beginning of something greater, something dangerous, and something unforgettable. The human stared at the horizon, his arms holding the tiny alien girl close. The stars above shimmered like 1,000 eyes, watching. The night had changed, and so had his fate. The strange encounter had only just begun. The human sat in silence, as the desert wind brushed against the tent walls. The tiny alien girl rested in his lap, her breathing soft but uneven. The fire outside burned low, casting long shadows across the sand. He stared down at her fragile form, his mind racing with questions. Who was she? What did she mean when she said she was broken? And what did she mean by asking him to make her whole? As the night deepened, the girl stirred. Her glowing eyes opened slowly. Shimmering like liquid stars, she sat up weakly, her small hands gripping the fabric of his shirt as if she feared he might vanish. The human gently placed her beside him, giving her space. She looked so delicate that he worried even his touch might harm her. For a long moment she said nothing, only stared at the flames. Then, with a trembling voice, she whispered, "You do not understand. I carry wounds that cannot heal." The human frowned. He had seen wounds before, bloody, broken bones, scars, left by battles. But what he saw in her was different. As the firelight touched her skin, faint glowing cracks appeared along her arms and neck. They looked like lines of broken glass, pulsing faintly with blue light. The sight made him catch his breath. He leaned closer, his voice low. What happened to you?" The girl's eyes filled with sadness. She pulled her knees to her chest, curling into herself, as if hiding from unseen hands. "My people," she began, her words breaking like fragile glass. "We are not hunted for our flesh, but for our essence. Our life force can be taken, stolen, drained. They broke me, piece by piece, until nothing of me was whole." The human felt his chest tighten. He had fought creatures in this desert before, but never had he imagined something so cruel. The thought of a people living in constant fear, being torn apart, not by weapons, but by something deeper, made his stomach twist. She touched one of the glowing scars on her arm, and her small fingers trembled. "This is not a wound of the body, it is a wound of the soul, and once the soul is broken, it cannot be healed by my people. Only another heart, strong and unyielding, can fill the cracks." Her words echoed in his mind. Only another heart, strong and unyielding. He looked at her small frame and broken spirit, and felt the weight of her plea. It was not food she needed, not water or shelter, but something far heavier. "Why me?" he asked softly, his voice cracked in the still night. "Why do you think I can do this?" She raised her eyes to him, and for the first time he saw more than sorrow. He saw hope, fragile but burning like a flame fighting against the wind. "Because you fought for me when no one else would, because your soul did not turn away when mine begged to be seen. The desert may crush your body, but your spirit is unbroken." I felt it. The human looked away, his heart unsettled. He had never been called unbroken, never been told he carried such strength. He was just a man, lost in an alien desert, trying to survive. Yet to her, he was something more. He rose and walked to the tent's edge. Looking out into the night, the dunes stretched endlessly. Glowing under the moonlight, he thought of his mission, of his survival, of the long road ahead. But now the road was no longer his alone. This girl had tied her fate to his, whether he wanted it or not. Behind him, he heard her soft voice again. "They will come for me, the hunters. They never stop. If they find me, they will break me completely. And if you stay with me, they will hunt you too." The human clenched his fists. The thought of unseen hunters stalking the dunes sent a chill through him. He turned back to her, his jaw tight. "Then we'll be ready," he said firmly, though doubt burned in his chest. Her eyes widened, shimmering with tears. She had expected him to turn away, to abandon her. Instead, he had chosen to stand. She reached out her small hand, and he took it, her cool fingers pressing against his rough palm. In that quiet moment, under the watch of the stars, a silent bond was forged. The human did not understand the path ahead. He did not know what trials awaited them, but he knew this: he could not leave her, not now, not when her broken soul had reached for his. The fire flickered lower, the desert winds rising, far away, faint howls echoed across the dunes. Not of beasts, but of something darker. The girl shivered, leaning against him once more. He wrapped his arm around her. Steadying her trembling frame, he whispered to himself, secret wounds, secret battles. He now carried them too, and in the heart of the desert, beneath the silver moon, the first threads of an unbreakable bond began to weave, threads of sorrow, of hope, and of a destiny neither of them could yet see. The desert was quiet, but the human could feel danger pressing in from the shadows. The tiny alien girl leaned against him, her glowing eyes half closed, though her trembling never stopped. She had spoken of hunters, creatures that tore essence from her kind, and now the night itself seemed to carry their whispers. The fire had died low, leaving only embers glowing red against the sand. The human tightened his grip on the weapon at his side. His instincts screamed that they were not alone. He listened, his breath slow, his ears straining. And then he heard it, a sound carried by the wind, low at first, then clear, a howl, sharp and haunting, followed by another, and another. His blood ran cold. He knew the difference between the cries of desert beasts and something more intelligent. These were not wild predators, these were hunters. The alien girl's body stiffened. She lifted her head quickly, her glowing eyes wide with fear. "They are here," she whispered. Her voice shook, as if the words themselves carried pain. The human moved fast. He pulled her close, wrapping her in a cloak, and pushed her gently toward the tent. "Stay inside," he told her. She shook her head in protest, clutching his arm. "If they see me, they will not stop. They will tear you apart as well." He looked into her eyes, firm and steady. "Then let them come for me, first." Outside, the sand shifted. Figures emerged from the darkness, tall and thin. Their limbs stretched unnaturally long. Their eyes glowed like burning coals, and their movements were smooth, too smooth, like shadows given form. Each one carried a spear-like weapon, pulsing with faint blue light. The human stepped forward, standing between the fire's glow and the tent. His heart pounded, but his stance did not waver. The hunters spread out in a circle, surrounding the camp with silent precision. One of them hissed, a sound like stone scraping against metal, and then spoke in a language that was harsh and broken. The girl from within the tent cried out, her voice trembling. "They are saying, return what is theirs. They want me." The human's jaw tightened. He raised his weapon slowly, his voice cut through the night. "You will not take her." The hunters paused, tilting their heads as if studying him. Then, with sudden speed, the first one lunged. The human fired, the blast of light tearing across the desert. The hunter fell, writhing, before fading into smoke. The others roared, a sound that shook the air. They charged as one. The human fought with every ounce of strength. He ducked beneath a swinging spear, his weapon firing again. Another fell, then another. But for each one he struck down, two more seemed to emerge from the dunes. Their long limbs moved like whips, their glowing eyes fixed on him, inside the tent. The girl pressed her hands to the glowing cracks along her body. Her chest heaved with panic. She could feel the pull of the hunters, as if her broken essence still belonged to them. Her tears glowed faintly as she whispered, "Please, don't let him fall." Outside, the human stumbled. A spear grazed his arm, burning through his sleeve. Pain shot through him, but he refused to back down. He pushed forward, slamming the butt of his weapon into one hunter's chest before blasting another into dust. His muscles burned, his breath came heavy, but he kept standing. The hunters circled, hissing and snarling. Their movements grew more frantic, as if they did not understand how one man could resist them. One of them shouted in their jagged tongue, and they all leaped at once. The human roared, his voice filled with raw defiance. He fought like a storm, his strikes fueled not by survival alone, but by something deeper. He was protecting her, the fragile girl who had curled into his lap and asked him to make her whole. He refused to let these monsters take her. One by one, They fell, until only silence remained. The desert was still again, broken only by his ragged breathing. Smoke drifted where the hunters had once stood, fading into the cold air. He lowered his weapon slowly, his body trembling. Blood dripped from his arm, and his legs threatened to give way, but he stood tall. His eyes scanned the dunes, searching for more. When none came, he finally turned toward the tent. The girl rushed out, her eyes wide with fear and relief. She threw herself at him, her small arms wrapping tightly around his waist. "You should not have done that," she whispered, tears glowing down her cheeks. "They will keep coming. They never stop." The human placed his hand gently on her head, his voice low, steady. "Then I will keep standing, as long as it takes." Her trembling eased as she pressed her forehead against him. For the first time since she had spoken of her broken soul, she felt a spark of safety. The hunters had met the fury of a human heart, and they had fallen. But deep in the desert, far beyond the dunes, more voices stirred. The night was only the beginning. The chase was far from over. The desert was silent again, but the silence did not feel safe. The human stood with his weapon lowered, his chest heaving as sweat rolled down his brow. The bodies of the hunters were gone, turned to ash on the wind, yet their presence still lingered, as if the night itself remembered them. The alien girl clung to him, her tiny frame pressed against his side. Her glowing eyes shimmered with both relief and fear. She looked up at him, her lips trembling. "They will not stop. They will keep searching until they break me completely." The human tightened his jaw. He had fought battles before, but never one like this. Never against creatures that seemed more shadow than flesh. He glanced at her scars, glowing faint cracks that pulsed faintly in the moonlight. He remembered her words, that her wounds were of the soul, not of the body. He crouched down to her, level. His voice was steady, but soft. "Tell me what you mean. What did they take from you? Why are you broken?" The girl hugged her knees, rocking slightly as if trying to hold herself together. Her voice came in pieces, fragile and weak. "My people, we are made of light and spirit. Our bodies are only shells. Our true strength comes from within. They tore mine apart. They left me hollow. I can walk, I can speak, but I am not whole. I am only half of myself." The human felt a deep ache in his chest. He had seen soldiers broken by war, friends who returned home with haunted eyes. But this was different. This was not just memory or pain. This was her very being shattered, and yet she still lived, still breathed, still sought to continue. He asked quietly, "Is there a way? Can it be fixed?" She looked up at him, her glowing eyes wide and searching. "Only one way, a promise, a bond. It is forbidden among my kind. We never ask it of others. But you are not like them. You fought for me, though you had no reason. Perhaps you are the one." The human frowned. "The one for what?" Her voice shook as she whispered, "To make me whole again, to give me back what was lost. But it comes with danger, with pain. It will change you forever." The words echoed in the night. The fire behind them flickered weakly, casting shadows across the sand. The human stared at her, his mind racing. He had survived wars, storms, even the hunters that now haunted the desert. But this was something beyond survival. This was something deeper. He asked, "What would I have to do?" The girl's small hands trembled as she reached for his. Her touch was cool, her fingers fragile. "You would have to share your essence with mine. Your heart must touch my heart. If your spirit is strong, my cracks will close. If your spirit is weak, then both of us may break." He swallowed hard. The thought of his very being torn apart made his skin crawl. Yet when he looked at her, curled and trembling, he could not turn away. She had begged him for wholeness, and for some reason, she had chosen him. He took a slow breath. "And if I refuse?" Her eyes lowered, her voice soft. "Then I will fade, piece by piece, until nothing is left. And you will go on alone, but you will always remember that I begged you. And you said no. The silence that followed weighed heavy between them. The desert wind swept across the dunes, carrying the faint echo of distant howls. The hunters would come again. She was right. They would not stop if he left her broken. She would not survive. If he tried to heal her, he might not survive. The human stood and turned his eyes to the horizon. The moonlight painted the sand silver, and the stars above burned cold and endless. He thought of Earth, of the people he had once sworn to protect, of the strength that had carried him through battles, and then he thought of her, small, fragile, but brave enough to ask a stranger to save her soul. Asterisk. He turned back to her, his voice steady. If there's a chance, even if it breaks me, I'll do it. The girl gasped softly, her glowing eyes filling with tears. She covered her mouth with her hands, shaking. You do not understand what you are saying. This is more than pain. It is more than sacrifice. It could burn you. It could destroy you. He stepped closer, kneeling before her. His hand rested gently on her shoulder. I've been broken before. I've been scarred. But if I can make you whole, if I can stop them from taking more from you, then I'll take that risk. Her tears fell, glowing against her cheeks. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his chest. Her voice was barely a whisper. Then you are truly different, human, different from any I have ever known. The fire crackled weakly, and the desert wind carried away the last traces of ash. In that moment, under the vast sky, a promise was made. The human did not know what lay ahead, but he knew this: he would not abandon her. The alien girl lifted her head, her glowing eyes locked on his. At dawn, I will show you the ritual. It is forbidden, but it is the only way. If your spirit survives, I will be whole again. He nodded, his eyes steady. His fate was sealed with hers. The desert no longer felt empty. It felt like the edge of something greater. And in the quiet between the stars, the promise of wholeness was born. Asterisk. The desert sky slowly shifted from deep black to pale gray as dawn approached. The stars faded, one by one, and the first glow of sunlight touched the dunes. The human had not slept. His mind carried the weight of the promise he had made. He sat near the fire's dying embers, sharpening his blade. Though he knew steel would not protect him from what was coming, the alien girl sat across from him, her eyes glowing faintly. In the morning light, she looked calmer now, though her body still trembled with weakness. The cracks along her skin glimmered like faint lines of glass, each one pulsing as though waiting for something. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. There is a place not far from here, a cave hidden beneath the desert stone. It holds the light of my ancestors. It is there we must go. It is there the ritual will begin. The human rose, slinging his pack over his shoulder. His body ached from the battle with the hunters, but his resolve did not waver. He offered her his hand, and though her fingers were fragile and cool, she gripped him tightly. Together they walked across the sand, leaving behind the fire and the tent that had sheltered them through the night. The journey was long and silent. The sun rose high, casting harsh light across the dunes. The heat pressed down, but neither spoke of it. Their footsteps marked a path toward the distant ridges of stone. The human carried her when her legs weakened, and though her body was light, he felt the heaviness of her burden with every step. At last, they reached a formation of jagged rocks rising from the desert floor. Hidden between them was a narrow passage, almost invisible to the eye. The girl led him inside, her small hand guiding him through the shadows. The air grew cooler, the sound of the desert fading until all that remained was silence. The cave opened suddenly into a vast chamber, glowing with alien crystals that grew from the walls and ceiling. Their light shimmered like liquid stars, filling the cavern with an unearthly beauty. At the center of the chamber lay a pool of clear water, glowing faintly as if lit from beneath. The girl knelt beside the pool, her reflection fractured by the rippling surface. Her voice was low, heavy with both fear and reverence. This is the heart of my people. It is where our spirits are born, and where they return when broken. To complete the ritual, you must open yourself. You must give me the strength of your soul." The human stepped closer, staring at the glowing water. His throat felt dry. "And how do I open myself?" She turned to him, her glowing eyes searching his face. "You must let go of fear, of doubt. You must bare your heart. If you resist, the bond will shatter, and we will both be lost." Her words sank deep into him. He had faced battles with weapons, storms with grit, but this was different. This was not about strength of body. It was about strength of spirit, and he wondered if he had enough. The girl stood, her small frame trembling. She raised her hands, and the crystals in the chamber pulsed in answer. Their glow brightened, and the air filled with a strange vibration. Her voice grew stronger, carried by the echoes of the cave. "Step into the water. Human, step into the light." He hesitated only a moment before stripping away his armor and boots. The water rippled as he stepped into it, cool against his skin. It glowed brighter where he touched it. As though recognizing his presence, he waded to the center and turned to face her. She entered the pool as well, her small form glowing brighter with each step. When she reached him, she placed her hands on his chest. Her touch was cool, almost electric. "Close your eyes," she whispered, "and let me in." The human obeyed. His world went dark, and then the visions came. He saw flashes of her past, her people standing tall, their bodies glowing with pure light, their laughter ringing across vast fields of crystal. Then he saw the hunters, tearing through them, draining their essence, leaving only broken shells behind. He saw her falling, crying out, the cracks forming across her skin as her soul was ripped apart. The vision shifted, and now he saw himself. Battles fought on earth, comrades lost, scars carved into his heart. He saw every moment he had endured pain and loss. Every time he had refused to break. The girl's voice filled his mind, trembling. "Do you see? This is what I am missing. This strength, this fire, it is what I need to be whole." He felt her pulling at him, not his body, but his very spirit. She drew from him the will to fight, the stubborn flame that had never gone out. It burned within him, and it began to flow into her. The cracks across her skin glowed brighter, closing slowly as his strength poured into her. Pain ripped through him. His knees buckled in the water. His breath came in gasps. It felt as though his soul was being torn apart. But still, he stood, clinging to her touch, refusing to let go. The cave trembled, crystals flashing like lightning. The water surged with light, wrapping them both in a storm of energy. His body screamed for him to stop, to pull away, but he held on, his teeth clenched, his heart unyielding. The girl cried out, her voice filled with both agony and hope. "Just a little more. Do not let go. Please, do not let go." And though he felt himself breaking, though the edges of his vision grew dark, he whispered back, "I won't." The ritual had begun, and there was no turning back. The cave shook, as if the desert itself was alive. The glowing crystals pulsed brighter with every heartbeat, filling the chamber with flashes of blue and white light. The human stood knee-deep in the water, his body trembling, his strength fading. He gritted his teeth, refusing to fall. The tiny alien girl clung to him, her glowing cracks slowly sealing as his essence poured into her. She gasped with each surge, her voice echoing in his mind, "You are giving me too much. You cannot hold for long." But he shook his head, his voice rough. "I said I would not let go." The energy swirled around them, wrapping their bodies in spirals of light. The water rippled wildly, glowing like molten silver. Pain tore through the human, each wave worse than the last. It was not the pain of broken bones or wounds. It was deeper. It clawed at his spirit, tearing at the core of who he was. Memories flashed before his eyes, the battlefield back on Earth. The screams of men, the smoke and fire, his hands covered in blood, comrades falling beside him. Yet, in every vision, he stood again, never surrendering, never bowing. That fire was what the girl was taking now, the unyielding spark that kept him alive. The girl's body glowed brighter. Her small frame lifted slightly from the water, her scars closed one by one, the cracks disappearing. She cried out, "I can feel it. I can feel the pieces returning, but you are breaking." He dropped to one knee, the water splashing around him. His chest heaved, sweat and blood dripping from his skin. His voice was hoarse. "If it saves you, then let me break." Her glowing eyes widened with panic. She gripped his face with her small hands, her voice desperate. "No, you cannot give me everything. If you fall, I will fall too. That is not wholeness, that is only death." The crystals screamed with light, the cavern roaring as if alive. The ritual was reaching its peak, his vision blurred, the edges darkening. He could feel himself slipping, his spirit stretched thin like a thread ready to snap. He wanted to let go. His body begged him to collapse into the water and never rise again. Yet when he looked at her, when he saw her glowing with new strength, his heart clenched. He could not stop, not yet. Her voice cracked through the storm. "Why? Why would you do this for me? A stranger, a broken alien girl." Through the agony, he forced a smile. His words came out broken, but firm. Because no one should beg to be whole and be left alone. The girl's tears glowed as they fell onto his face. Her heart ached with every beat of his. For the first time since her soul was shattered, she felt not just repair, but connection. She felt the raw strength of humanity, a force she had never known. The water surged upward, covering them both in a storm of liquid light. His body convulsed as the last of his strength poured into her. His eyes rolled back, and for a moment, he thought it was the end. But then she screamed, "Enough!" Her body burst with radiant light, forcing the energy away. The cave exploded with brilliance, every crystal shining like a star. The human collapsed into the water, his chest barely rising, his body weak, his spirit drained. The girl fell beside him, catching his head in her small hands. Her body was whole now, glowing with power. The cracks were gone, her essence complete, but her tears flowed fast, glowing against his skin. "Do not leave me. You cannot leave me now." He could barely breathe. His voice was faint. "Did it work?" She sobbed softly, nodding. "Yes, you made me whole. But if I lose you, then I am broken again." She pressed her forehead to his, sharing her new strength. She let some of the energy flow back into him. Her glow dimmed slightly as she gave what she could. "You are not allowed to fall. Human, you are mine now, as I am yours." Slowly, painfully, his breathing steadied. His body was weak, but his spirit clung to the fire that still burned faintly within. He opened his eyes, meeting hers, and saw not the broken girl he had first found, but something more. She was whole, radiant, fierce. Her glowing eyes held both gratitude and something deeper, a bond that could not be broken. The cavern quieted, the crystals dimming to a soft glow. The storm of energy faded, leaving only the sound of the water. He lay in her arms, and for the first time in years, he felt peace, but he knew that danger was not gone. The hunters would return, stronger, angrier, drawn to the light she now carried, and now they would hunt not just her, but him too. Still, as he looked into her eyes, he felt no regret. He had given, and she had been made whole, and together, they had reached the breaking point, and survived. The cave had fallen into silence, the echoes of the ritual fading into memory. The crystals glowed faintly, no longer pulsing with wild energy, only breathing a soft, steady light. The human lay against the cool stone, his body weak but alive. Each breath was shallow, but steady enough to keep him grounded. Beside him knelt the alien girl, her small hands holding his face, as if she feared he might vanish if she let go. Her glowing eyes shone with both triumph and sorrow. Her body was whole now, the cracks gone, her essence complete. She had begged to be made whole, and he had given everything he had. She leaned close, her voice trembling. "You saved me. You gave me back my soul." The human forced a tired smile, his voice rough. "Good, then it was worth it." Tears glowed down her cheeks. She shook her head, pressing her forehead against his. "No, not if it breaks you. We are bound now. If you fall, I will fall too." He lifted a shaky hand, brushing her hair back. "Then, I guess we stand together." The girl closed her eyes, letting the warmth of his words sink deep into her. For so long she had lived in fear, broken and hunted, but now, with his strength woven into her soul, she felt something new. She felt hope when he finally rose. Leaning on her small shoulder for support, she helped him walk out of the cave. The desert stretched before them, bathed in golden light from the rising sun. The sand glistened, as though the world itself had been renewed. For the first time, she walked without trembling. Her steps were steady, her glow no longer faint but radiant. She turned to him, her voice soft but strong. "I am whole now. I am no longer afraid." He looked at her, still weak, but filled with quiet pride. "Good, but you must hold on to it, because the hunters will return." Her glowing eyes narrowed, not with fear, but with determination. "Let them come. They cannot break me again. Not while you are with me." They traveled together across the dunes, leaving the cave behind. The human's strength returned slowly with each step. She shared her essence with him, not draining, but balancing. Their bond worked both ways now. He gave her resilience, and she gave him light. By nightfall, they rested on a ridge overlooking the desert. The sky above was filled with stars, endless and bright. The girl curled close to him, not trembling, but at peace. Her small body fit against his side as if she had always belonged there. She whispered, "When I first found you, I was broken. I thought I would fade into nothing. But you gave me more than wholeness. You gave me reason." The human stared at the horizon, his voice low. "And you gave me something too. You reminded me why I fight, not just to survive, but to protect." Their bond deepened in the silence, a connection no hunter could ever tear apart. The desert wind carried their promise across the dunes, a vow etched not in stone but in spirit. Days passed. Each one brought challenges, storms of sand, prowling creatures, and the distant cries of hunters searching. Yet together, they faced them all. The girl's glow became stronger with each sunrise, and the human's body healed, though his scars remained. He did not mind. Scars were proof that he had chosen to stand. One evening, as they camped by a rocky outcrop, the hunters finally returned. Dozens of glowing eyes appeared in the dark. Their hisses filled the air, surrounding the pair in a circle of shadows. The human gripped his weapon, standing tall, but before he could fire, the girl stepped forward. Her body glowed brighter than the moon above. Her voice rang like thunder across the desert. "You cannot have me. You cannot break me again." The hunters paused, their movements uncertain. They hissed and snarled, but the power radiating from her froze them. Her glow pulsed outward, filling the dunes with blinding light. The shadows screamed, fading one by one into nothingness, until only silence remained. The human lowered his weapon, stunned. The girl turned to him, her small face filled with both pride and joy. "Your strength lives in me now. They cannot break what we are together." He stepped closer, resting his hand gently on her shoulder. "You don't need me to fight for you anymore." She shook her head, smiling softly. "No, but I want you to stand with me." They sat together beneath the stars once more. The hunters were gone, the desert was quiet, and for the first time since their encounter began, there was peace. The girl curled into his lap again, but this time she was not trembling. She was whole. She was strong, and she was no longer alone. The human looked down at her, his heart steady. He had entered the desert as a wanderer, but now he walked as part of something greater. His spirit had mended hers, and hers had lit his in return. And as the desert wind whispered across the sands, their bond became legend. The girl made whole, and the human who refused to let her break.